We Are Wrestling.
We Are Wrestling.
Don, D-O-N?
Dick, got it.
Make sure to subscribe, baby.
We are wrestling.
What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host, the best one, Donnie, here with...
What is going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. Donnie's co-host, one of his co-hosts for the We Are Wrestling Talk Show, man. We're riding solo this week. Ben, his ass is on vacation. His Asian ass took him to the beach. Me and Don are here, putting in the work, putting in the grind. Well, this motherfucker's chilling, sitting on the beach drinking cocktails, man. What the fuck is up with that?
Well, you know what's up with that. He has been doing consistent episodes since coming back from his hiatus. And he has been, stepping up to the plate. And I really hope he enjoys his vacation. Hopefully he's enjoying himself a nice little cocktail or maybe a little bit of the bubbly. But if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, the best way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button now, turning on the post notifications, videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO, and of course, you already know, the grind is real. And this week, on the We Are Wrestling Talk Show, we are going to be talking about one of the most legendary factions in the WWE, D-Generation X. We're going to talk about some of our favorite moments and some of our, favorite matches with DX. And we're going to just, this is all nostalgia talk here. So I really hope you guys enjoy the episode. Are you ready?
Yeah, exactly, man. And, this is an episode that me and you wanted to do for a while. And Ben wasn't really that crazy about it because he feels like we have been covering a lot of like Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and they were major staples in DX. They were DX, for Christ's sake. So he wasn't really crazy about doing the episode. So we figured, while he's gone, this is an episode and we can cover and we can get it down, because I know there's a lot of people out there just like us, man. Grew up in the Attitude Era, D-Generation X. We had Road Dogg, we had Billy Gunn, we had Triple H, we had Shawn Michaels, we had China, we had X-Pac. It was just a great, I don't know, one of the most legendary factions, I would like to think, in pro wrestling.
Oh, it has to definitely be like on everybody's top three, maybe even number one for some people. Definitely in the top three for probably any We Are Wrestling Maniac out there. But DX, there's such a huge history behind it. There was, three different times DX was a part of WWE. You had the original, which was, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, China, and Rick Rude. And then when Shawn Michaels, got injured with his back and took a break from, WWE, Triple H, brought, reformed DX after WrestleMania 14, brought in X-Pac and brought in Road Dogg and Billy Gunn to create, the new DX. And then, of course,
the New Age Outlaws.
The New Age Outlaws, one of the best tag teams in the Attitude Era. Besides, the big three with the Hardys, Dudleys, Edge, and Christian. But then we saw around 2000, DX disbanded because Triple H, he was in the main event picture, and he was having a phenomenal singles run with, Stephanie McMahon, the Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Yeah. And then in 2006, we saw DX reform with Shawn Michaels and Triple H until 2009, I believe.
Yeah, man, they've been around a lot longer than I think people really realize. And, when I first saw DX, for the first time, there was just something about them that I enjoyed seeing. It was like, the authenticity of it all. You know what I mean? Like, crotch chopping your boss and, telling everybody to suck it. And could you imagine Could you imagine how many people got in trouble in high school for, you know, mimicking DX, man. Whenever you see a DX documentary or whatever, you always hear like one superstar that's around now. Oh yeah, man, when I was in high school, middle school, you know, I fucking used to do the cross chop with my friends and I would get, you know, detention. It's like, I mean, bro, everybody loved DX. When they invaded WCW,
Yes,
remember?
that was one of, the times that WWE actually, mentioned WCW, and they
Yep.
were, I believe, performing in the same like town that night. So then, they did these vignettes with, Triple H and Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, X Pac, and China. They had, the army tank going to WCW. One of the most iconic moments in the Attitude Era history, right there.
Exactly. And I remember, um, even besides that, I remember when Sergeant Slaughter was the commissioner, and
Commissioner Slaughter.
Shawn Michaels and Triple H would just fucking make his life a living fucking hell, and fucking Shawn Michaels would take his pants off and fucking moon him, and he had like a fucking thong, and it was just a fucking wild time, bro. They did stuff that if they did it today, WWE would get taken off of television.
Yeah, even one thing that I remember, like with like the first DX, I remember Shawn Michaels using the Canadian flag as a tissue,
Yeah, man. I
wiping his
mean,
boogers all over Bret Hart's flag.
but I mean that was real to people back then, you know. Everybody
It was.
says everybody's saying that, you know, the business is exposed now. You know, like meaning like everybody knows what happens behind the scenes. Back then, it wasn't like that. They didn't really have the internet. You know, the internet was, you know, fairly new. They didn't have fucking social media and stuff like that. They didn't have the kind of dirt sheets that they have now, to where they wanted to report on everything. You know, so people took that as the gospel. People like legitimately like, bro, this dude is like really like disrespecting another country right now. Like it was farther from the truth about them, like, you know, them just putting on a show and them pretty much being actors. You know what I mean?
Heat 101, something that, wrestling nowadays is truly missing. Something that MJF, is the one guy probably that brings that back with the old school stuff. And that's something that I do really miss as a wrestling maniac.
Yep, I do too.
Is the
Um,
real.
yep. And I will say, you know, last week when Johnny Gargano came back, you know, like there was reports that Shawn Michaels was supposed to call him, but there was no reports about him actually like being in Toronto or showing up for Raw. Bro, it was so invigorating. Like it just like I was like, what, bro? I had to, when I was watching it, right, and I do live streams. You guys can go to Danny H Vlogs on YouTube and you can watch my reaction. Bro, I had to fucking pause the show to make sure I was legitimately watching a new episode of Raw. I thought I fucked up. Something went wrong, and I was watching like an episode from 2 years ago. Because remember he had that little stint on the main
He
roster with
did.
Ciampa. So I was like, is this really happening right now? Bro, I miss stuff like that, you know, when something exciting happens, you don't see it happening.
And here's the thing. If you want it to be a surprise, you will find a way to make it a surprise. And that is what Johnny Wrestling did last week on Monday Night Raw. He found a way to make it a surprise. He did not talk to any reporters whatsoever. He stayed as quiet as he can about potentially returning to wrestling and, focused on his Twitch stuff. And if Johnny can do it, anybody else can do it. So, like, there's reports out there right now about MJF, as we're recording this video. He hasn't came back yet.
Mm-hmm.
But MJF, there's reports that he's coming back somewhat soon. So, like,
Yep.
clearly, somebody within AEW is talking to reporters. That's how this stuff gets out there. That's how spoilers get out there. Why do you
Yep.
think certain things are a surprise? AJ Styles going to the Royal Rumble back in 2016 was not a surprise because at the last independent show that he wrestled, which I believe was out in the UK, he pretty much, the crowd was chanting Royal Rumble, and you could just tell by his body language that he was going to WWE. So,
Yeah.
if you want to keep it a secret, you will find a way to do it, and I hope more wrestlers do what Johnny Wrestling did.
I will say, though, on that front, and it does have to do with DX. I don't want people to think we're getting off topic. I mean, Triple H and Shawn Michaels are the ones that brought him to the company. Triple H is running things now.
Oh, he's a
Thank
Shawn
fucking
Michaels
God.
and Triple H guy. Easily.
Oh, absolutely. So this does tie in with DX a little bit. I will say, like, if you're a casual wrestling fan, you don't know Fightful, you don't know, Dave Meltzer, you don't know the Wrestling Observer, you don't know all these guys, Wrestling Inc., these guys that do all this news and reporting and stuff like that. I understand from a business aspect because this is their life. They love wrestling just like me and you. They have to make money by reporting the news and reporting what's going on. And I
They
love
went to
it
school for journalism, too.
for the simple fact that whatever they report, we get to make content. We get to talk about it. We're not journalists. We don't have any inside sources or whatever. Will that happen at some point in the future? Who knows?
Look,
But
the people that tune into the We Are Wrestling talk show, they're not the casuals. They are the hardcore wrestling maniacs that
Yep.
keep, AEW, Impact Wrestling, WWE, all of these, promotions in business. Us hardcore fans are the reason why wrestling is still around to this day, why these wrestlers and superstars are making a living doing what they're doing. Yes, a little bit has to do with the casual fans, but if it wasn't for us hardcore fans who purchase the merchandise, who go to the shows, watch the shows, critique the shows, wrestling would not be where it's at.
Exactly, man. And I remember me and you had a debate about this a while ago. And you were like, oh, they should start catering to casual fans, this and that. I don't think that's the case, bro. Like, casual fans are not going to be the people that bring in the money.
Clearly not, and I'll tell you this. For me, when I realized I was wrong with that statement, because, the type of person I am, if I'm wrong, I am going to own up to it and I am going to take accountability, and that is what I do. If I'm right, I'm going to brag it in. But I
Yep.
was wrong with that debate there about the casuals, because what I realized when Triple H took over WWE right now with Raw and SmackDown, they have been getting over 2 million viewers a week, and that is not from casual fans. That is from hardcore fans. Seeing Hit Row come out without Swerve, and seeing, Dexter and Johnny and even, Karrion Kross, the crowd, they already knew who they were, and that is clearly not a casual fan, because the casual fan are only going to tune into Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown or your WrestleManias and Rumbles and Survivor Series and SummerSlams. So I admit I was completely wrong with that take a few months back, because the hardcore fans right now is what is giving WWE this momentum.
Yep. And I was hard on WWE for a while, and you and Ben gave me shit about it, but I saw the potential. I know what WWE is capable of, and it damn sure was not that bullshit that Vince McMahon was trying to give us.
Yes. I will still say I do prefer watching AEW over WWE still. I do. I am enjoying the WWE product right now. I don't have really that much negative stuff to say about it. It's a lot better than the shit Vince was doing, but I still prefer the AEW product right
Oh,
now.
absolutely.
But now with Degeneration X, what were some of your favorite moments in the early days with them? I'm talking Attitude Era from 97 to about 2000.
You gotta love the feud that they had with Mick Foley, man, Mankind, when Mankind won his first WWE title, and I think The Rock and Jericho, if I remember correctly, helped him. It was just a monumental moment, bro. Like,
Oh my
I
god, with
mean,
all the interferences and all the chaos
yeah,
behind the match, but still captured the most iconic moment, I think, in the Attitude Era history. That was, beautiful.
Yep, and you also got to go with, Kane. Remember when Kane was dating Tori or whatever, and Tori ended up, you know, sleeping with X Pac or whatever, so she ended up going to DX, and so they had that whole storyline, that rivalry. I did like X Pac's teaming up with Kane though. I thought that was pretty entertaining stuff.
Well, they built a
But I
good
mean,
storyline out of it overall.
bro, there's just so many fucking moments. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're not a wrestling fan, everybody knows the classic black and the big DX, G Generation X shirt. You know what I mean? There's people that aren't even wrestling fans that wear that shirt because it's fucking badass. Everybody knows who DX was back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of, the rivalries that stand out to me that I really enjoyed was the Nation of Domination versus DX in 1998. Personally,
Mhm.
for me, that's like one of my favorite factions of all time was the Nation of Domination. I really did enjoy that. A little bit
Remember
more than DX.
remember when DX came out dressed up as the Nation of Domination? They had the
That
fucking
was great.
yeah. Smell what the cock is cooking. Triple H dressed up like the
The
Rock
the
and
impressions that DX did were priceless through the years. And later on, I definitely want to talk about Vince and Shane, the impression that they did, because that was
oh
one of
yeah,
the
man.
funniest moments.
That was in what,
All
05, 06?
that was in 2006.
Yeah.
That was the build
That
up
was
for SummerSlam that year.
that was I thought that was the build up towards Survivor Series, because they had a cage match with it was Shawn Michaels and Triple H DX against the McMahons, and I guess Big Show ended up somehow getting involved in the match. And I remember Big Show was leaning over the ropes. DX pulled his tights down and shoved Shane McMahon's head up Big Show's ass. Remember that?
I do. That the rivalry with the McMahons and DX was most of 2006. So I
Yeah.
don't really remember exactly because there was plenty of matches that they did because with the
Remember
Spirit
when they
Squad and stuff.
when they went on Vince McMahon's private jet
Oh, we're
and
going to get all into that. I definitely want to, get into the early days first before getting into that because I know
yeah.
there's going to be a lot of stuff that we could talk about during the Ruthless Aggression era.
Bro, there's so much, man. The fucking the little people court, the Hornswoggle, remember?
When he was a part of DX. Yep, I do remember that. But here's something as well that I also enjoyed because of course, we had the members of DX and they had
Hmm.
lots of, good rivalries and feuds. You talked
Yep.
about X-Pac and Kane. One of my favorite rivalries had to be in 1998, the New Age Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie when they had that dumpster match at WrestleMania 14.
Oh
I
yes.
absolutely enjoyed the New Age Outlaws run from like 1997 to
And that's where the
98.
Ass Boys and the Acclaim got the idea for having that dumpster match on
Let me
AEW
just say
Dynamite.
this. While we're talking about the dumpster match, that dumpster match that the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys put on was, for me, a 5-star match. I enjoyed that match from start to finish, and they did such a good job. And another reason why Tony Khan and AEW, they need to start pushing original guys like the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys. Because what they did in that match, they did some really creative, spots, and
Yep.
even them, doing the nostalgia, throwing them off the stage. That was really cool as well. And, even having, Max Caster come out at first and then they get like attacked and then he, cuts the rap. I thought that was a really good dumpster match recreated.
I thought it was too, and I saw a cell phone video of it. Everybody assumed that there was a trap door, in the dumpster or whatever to get the Ass Boys out of it before they pushed the dumpster off. Bro, they lifted that dumpster. They were fucking in there. They were in like a bunch of those like packing peanuts or whatever that you like put when you're gonna like ship a package or something. But the Ass Boys were in that fucking dumpster when the refs and everybody fucking tipped it back over right side up. So that shit was legitimate, bro.
I loved it. And for me, I really enjoyed the New Age Outlaws from 1997 to 98. They did some
Hmm.
really cool stuff. I even enjoyed, the feud that they had with the Legion of Doom, that
Oh
going
yeah,
into that Royal Rumble, I believe.
yeah. I don't watch much of like like Attitude Era like 97, 98. I usually stick to around 99, 2000, 2001, sort of in that area or whatever, because
Yeah, like the later days of the Attitude Era.
I feel like it got a little bit more adult oriented, like further along they went. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you
Um
had friggin' Val Venus and The Godfather. Rights
remember
to
when
Censor. That's how crazy it
remember
was getting. They had a friggin' faction called Rights to Censor coming out to
remember
friggin' some sirens.
remember when Kai and Tai they chopped
I
off
chop
or
your
made it.
pee-pee! One
This
of my
guy knew
favorite
where I was
segments of all
going,
time.
bro. This guy knew
Oh,
where the
I
fuck I
knew.
was going.
I knew. That's one of the funniest things ever.
Bro, it was great, man. Like
But here's
I am
here's a hot
I
take that I do have
oh, what's your hot
about
take?
Triple H.
Yeah.
He was very entertaining with DX, but for me, I was more of a fan of Triple H when he went on to, the main event picture, when he did the whole,
Mhm.
My Time and the game. Triple H, I
The
enjoyed
Cerebral
that a
Assassin.
lot more.
I love, bro. I
I
still say
enjoyed
one of
that
the
more than his DX run.
I will say the best Triple H match, in my opinion. Now people can agree or disagree. Uh, but one of his best matches was Royal Rumble 2000 against Cactus Jack.
Oh my god, what a match. Well, that's what made the game character around that time, because a lot of people remember all the jokes and, him being Shawn Michaels' sidekick. And, he was a mid card wrestler for the longest time. But going into that Royal Rumble, everybody was watching him. And they wanted to see if he can last against the hardcore legend Mick Foley. And he
Mhm.
did that. He went beyond, and Mick Foley put him over, and it really elevated Triple H's career to that next level, into that main event status.
What the hell's going on? Did you get
All
that?
right, all right, here we go.
But yeah, I will say the Royal Rumble 2000, that whole show was fucking awesome top to bottom. I mean, you have to look at who's on the card. They had the tag team table match, the Hardys and Dudleys. That was the same Royal Rumble to where either The Rock or Big Show won. Everybody knows that The Rock legitimately won. Um, but the Big Show, they had that feud going into WrestleMania 2000, and you had Cactus
Mae
Jack
Young
and
stripping.
Triple H.
Mae Young
There
stripping.
was there was also the main roster debut for Taz. He came over from ECW. That was and he
Yeah, that's when
choked out
he fought Kurt Angle, right?
Kurt Angle. He choked the fuck out of Kurt Angle. I can't remember if Taz won or not. He might have.
Yeah, Taz did
I
win
can't
his
remember.
debut. And then a couple months later, he went into the hardcore title picture and then really didn't do much.
Hmm. But that entire show, man, front to back is a stellar show. And I will say, out of everybody that Triple H feuded with, I have to always go with Cactus Jack as his number one feud, in my opinion, because I mean, bro, they beat the holy hell out of each other. Like Austin and Rock, like yeah, like they had really good matches, but it was different with Cactus Jack because they legit like he back body dropped this guy and he went through the fucking cell through the ring, bro.
That was at No Way Out
That
2000,
was at
right?
yeah 2000 or 2001. That was at No Way
It
Out,
was
yeah.
2000, I believe.
And then Mick Foley, that was his. If he lost, he had to retire, and then he came back like 2 months later as the commissioner. Remember that? And
And then
every
they
week
had
he
that
would.
horrible main event at WrestleMania 2000 where, like, Each
Mhm.
McMahon had somebody, and they wrestled for the WWF title. One of the most
Yep.
disappointing main events of all time with Mania. But for me personally, like with my hot take, I personally enjoyed Triple H in 2000 more than the stuff he did with DX back then. Even though it
Mhm.
did make some very iconic moments. Not saying I hated Triple H and DX, because if it wasn't for Triple H, there wouldn't be D-Generation X. But I just really enjoyed his main event push because at the time, he really proved that he is that guy. And he went
Yep.
on to, carry the rest of the Attitude Era and even the Ruthless Aggression.
Well, he got taken out in 2001. He wasn't a part of the invasion storyline because
Nope,
he
no
tore it.
invasion.
He tore his ACL or something like that, and it was him and Austin versus when they were like the 2-man power trip against Jericho and I think Chris Benoit, and
Mhm.
he ended up tearing his quad or something like that. So
Wasn't
he
it
was
on
out.
the announcement table? He did
Yeah,
like a
Jericho had.
pedigree.
No, he had a sledgehammer or whatever. He had something. Jericho had Austin in the walls of Jericho. Triple H slid in the ring and he went to hit him from behind and he planted his leg the wrong
Oh,
way.
okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
then it was the tag match with Rated RKO and DX where he messed his
Oh,
knee
bro,
up on the
this
announcer
was
table.
this. Yeah, but this whole thing was years before that.
Yeah, no, I remember that now that you said it.
Yeah, and he was out for like 9 months and he ended up coming back before Royal Rumble 2002. Remember, he came back in Madison Square Garden to that big fucking evocation
That was a
ovation.
crazy reaction from the crowd for that show. I will say, one Triple H match that I did really enjoy, like in his early DX days,
Yeah.
was the match that he had with Owen Hart at Mania 14, where they had Commissioner Slaughter, handcuffed to China. I thought that,
Oh yeah.
the rivalry that Owen Hart and Triple H had in 98 was very good. And I wish that WWE at the time, they took advantage of, the Black Heart. I thought that Owen Hart around that time could have definitely been WWF champion. And they should have,
Was wrestling?
picked that momentum up. And it should have been Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart at the Rumble in 98.
Yeah. He should have. They should have allowed Owen Hart to avenge his brother. After
Mhm.
the Montreal Screwjob, that would have been
Just
nuts to turn that into a
imagine some of the
storyline.
stuff that they really could
Wasn't
have done
Owen
with
Hart?
that.
Didn't Owen Hart pass away before the Montreal Screwjob, or was it after?
No, that was after. That was in 1999.
Yeah. So he
Screwjob happened
passed.
in 97.
Oh.
And that's where he debuted the Blackheart, was after the Survivor Series, and he was out for DX, and then he had one match on Raw with Shawn Michaels, and then you had the Royal Rumble, he came out, Triple H attacked him, and then they had a rivalry for the European title at Mania. But I wish that they really took advantage of the opportunity, and they should have had Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels at Rumble 98. That would have been probably one of the best matches around that time.
That would have been awesome.
But
That would
now,
have that would have been really cool.
years later, we saw,
What
uh,
what I don't mean to cut you off. I was just thinking about this and I lost my train of thought for whatever fucking reason. What WrestleMania was it that Mike Tyson joined DX? Was it WrestleMania 14 or 15?
WrestleMania 14. That was in 1998. That was after the Rumble. That was
Yeah, so
also a
that
really cool, iconic moment right there. Mike Tyson joining DX. That was freaking cool for its time.
oh, absolutely, bro. Every time you see a video package of DX, you always see that iconic shot of Mike Tyson fucking ripping the shirt and you see the DX logo on it.
Yeah, around that time, actually, like, he was one of the hottest boxers, and he actually got suspended for something around that time. So then that he had the free time to do stuff with WWE from the
Yep.
Rumble to Mania, which I thought was really cool because him and Austin, that, gained lots of attention from the media. And then having him a part of DX kind of brought some popularity to DX because, of course, people loved Mike Tyson at that time with boxing, so they saw him in a DX shirt. The casual fans were like, okay, I fuck with DX.
Yeah. That's where a lot of their popularity came from. Because you have to remember, bro, around that time, Mike Tyson was like, he was like the head of the fucking boxing world. Like, I don't
He
think
was he
there was
was the
no
Muhammad
Floyd Mayweather.
Ali for that time.
There was no Floyd Mayweather. There was none of that, bro. Like, it was Mike fucking Tyson. You know what I mean? So I do feel like he should have done more work with them because it didn't last long. I think he did like 2 episodes of Raw after that, and I think we never saw him again.
Yeah, he, did stuff for a few months with them, and I thought that it was really cool what they did, and then they had him
I would have
punch
loved to
Shawn
see him
Michaels.
and I would have loved to see him and fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin just hammering away at each other in like a street fight. Bro,
Yeah.
that would have been nuts. Cause you know Austin back then, like, yeah, he's a professional wrestler, bro. But if he needed to and wanted to, he could whoop your fucking ass legitimately. So I
Yeah,
would
but
have loved to see him and Mike Tyson fight each other.
But let's be honest, one of the coolest moments ever was when Stone Cold friggin' jumped in the ring at, friggin' Vince McMahon and then went at it with Mike Tyson. I thought
Was
that
that when he
they,
drove the Zamboni to the ring and he got arrested
yep.
and he
I
clotheslined Vince McMahon?
personally, I enjoyed what they did with Mike Tyson around that time. I don't think they
Yep.
needed to have him wrestle in a match because they got everything they needed out of him from, the beginning of 1998 to Mania, which I think they did
Yep.
a phenomenal job.
Oh, absolutely.
Him at being, like the enforcer of that match, I thought was great.
Yeah. He
So,
kind of reminded me of who's Mr. Hughes? Remember that fucking bodyguard that was in WWE for a short time? He was a big black guy, he wore sunglasses, and he had. Remember that guy, Mr. Hughes or something like that,
are
whatever
you,
his name is.
are you talking about like Raw Underground or
No,
no?
this was back in back in like 98, 97.
I don't remember at all.
You got to go back and watch some of that stuff, bro.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, homie.
So then, years later, we saw around 2002 Triple H and Shawn Michaels because Michaels, made his return and like they teased DX coming back. And then we saw, the beginning of Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, which
Triple
was
H
an
was the one
iconic rivalry.
Triple H was the one to attack Shawn Michaels in the parking lot, and Shawn Michaels' face was all fucked up, bro. He had stitches and he had all kinds of like bruising and stuff like that, and that led to their match at SummerSlam of that year, and a hellacious last. What was it? It wasn't a last man standing match. What was it? Like a street fight,
Yeah, they had
ladder match.
it was an unsanctioned match at SummerSlam. Then at Survivor Series was the Elimination Chamber where Shawn Michaels won the
Mhm.
title. And then at Armageddon, they, I believe, had a 3 Stages of Hell match. And then at
Yeah,
the Rumble, and then the Royal Rumble in 2004 was the last man standing match that they both did not get up to.
yeah, and somewhere around there, Kevin Nash ended up getting involved, and that began a feud between Triple H and Kevin Nash because
2003.
Kevin Nash was sticking up for Shawn Michaels at that point. He didn't like the way Triple H was acting, so he thought he would, take it upon himself to kind of correct Triple H's attitude a little bit.
That's the thing, like, WWE, they did really good with that rivalry. I love, the history behind it. And it really elevated Triple H, even more around the time. And it also, was really cool for the fans because it wasn't like Shawn Michaels came back and, had the typical, squash matches and then just had
Yep.
like a typical feud. Shawn Michaels
Yep.
went into a really big program that, was the highlight of Monday Night Raw, which, I was glad they took full advantage of that when Michaels made his return and having him work with his best friend at the time, Triple H.
Oh, absolutely. I just love that, and like going back and revisiting some of those old classic Raws and Smackdowns and pay per views or whatever. Because I have a thing, like, I have to watch from, like, the beginning of the month all the way up until, like, the pay-per-view, and, like, have to watch Raw,
Mhm.
like, all the Raws, and then the lead up to the pay-per-view or whatever, so I can sort of reinvest myself into the stories. That's usually what I do. I can't just
Yeah.
watch an episode of Raw and then, watch a pay-per-view. I can't do that for whatever reason. But it was just old classic stuff, bro. I miss that era so much. Like the Attitude Era, early Ruthless Aggression. I love when Stone Cold Steve Austin was co-GM. It was just a phenomenal time, bro. Could you imagine if YouTube was around back then? Could you imagine the amount of content we would have been able to make?
It would have been absolutely nuts around that time. We probably would be having a play button.
Yeah. Subscribe so we can get a play button, man. We need 100K.
Yep, we are very long. We're very long from that. So, around 2006, that is where we saw the actual return of DX in the Ruthless Aggression
Mm,
era. And around this time, I was very excited for it because I felt like Shawn Michaels and Triple H were getting very stale at the time.
yep.
Just, personally,
Because that was,
because after
yeah, that was
Batista defeated Triple H at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight title, and then they had that match at Vengeance for the title, Triple H for me didn't do much. I personally did not enjoy his feud with John Cena at WrestleMania 22. That's how sick of Triple
oh
H
really?
I was at the time. And it wasn't because at the time he was a heel and I was just, boo, you suck. I
Yep.
generally was sick of Triple H at that time. And then Shawn Michaels, he put on classics and he was starting to, get a little bit stale because he was doing that from 2002 to all the way to 2006. And when they brought back DX, the original, I think it was perfect timing for both of the guys.
Yep. And that was right. That was right around the time that he was just Triple H was just coming off of the heels of
The King of
Evolution.
Kings.
The King of Kings and Evolution, and Evolution was fucking huge. That was like Triple H is really known for his stables. Whether it's DX,
Evolution's one of
Evolution.
my favorite factions of all time.
Not my favorite. I like the introduction to Randy Orton as well as Batista. I love when Batista went to SmackDown though, because it's sort of like it showed that he didn't need anybody to hold his hand to have him become
Mhm.
successful. But I did like Evolution's theme song.
Oh, Motorhead, he did great with Triple H's music. Seriously. And I
Absolutely,
know
him
we
and
got into that with our episode where, we talked about the greatest wrestling, theme songs. If you guys want to
yep,
go check that episode out of the We Are Wrestling Talk Show, definitely recommend you to, because we even talked about Shawn Michaels' entrance at WrestleMania 14. But I loved how they brought back DX in 2006. They had him, it started with Shawn Michaels versus Vince McMahon. And then,
yep.
Vince had the Spirit Squad. So then, Triple H came to the rescue with Shawn. And
And
it
obviously,
made such great entertainment on Raw.
if I remember correctly, because everybody knows that Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are married. They've been married since 2003, I think.
2003, yep.
Legitimately. So I think if I remember correctly, now correct me if I'm wrong. Um, Vince McMahon thought Triple H was going to come out to help him because it's his father-in-law, but he ended up siding with Shawn Michaels, if I remember correctly, and
I
that's what
loved
began.
it.
That's what began DX versus McMahon's.
And you see, here's the thing that I really enjoyed about it was in 2006, it was very iconic for that time. We had Edge and John Cena, putting on a great feud. But then for Raw, it was even more watchable because DX was on like every other segment feuding with the McMahons and the Spirit Squad. And it led to great friggin' Saturday night main events because around that time they started bringing it back as like
Yep.
specials. And they had, DX versus the entire Spirit Squad. And then, SummerSlam, we got Shane and Vince versus, Shawn and Triple H. which was
Yep.
really cool at the time. I loved when DX came out and they mocked, Shane and Vince. That was hilarious when Triple H was Vince and he yelled at Shawn playing Shane, "You're fired!" And then Shawn just friggin' falls to the ground.
Yeah. And then Shawn is like, doing Shane McMahon's, little dance or whatever, moving his arm like he's like
Yeah.
a fucking like a handicap patient.
Yeah, it was friggin' nuts. Like, I also did around that time as a kid. That's like when I was in my prime with wrestling. I loved it so much. And I
Mhm.
actually wore my DX shirts around that time to school. There was actually like a shirt of Shawn and Triple H with their friggin' pants down, with their asses out, and on the back says "suck it." And then they also had like a shirt that had like the spray paint. It said Vince likes, and then it had like a picture of like a cock doodle doo. It
How'd
was
your
like a
uh, how'd your
rooster. It was
how'd your teachers
hilarious.
appreciate that?
Oh yeah, my mom had to bring me a different shirt. But I was able to like wear it for like a couple periods, which was kind of funny. Always wore
Oh
wrestling
boy.
shirts. Like one of the shirts that I'm not hold on. Okay. I need to rant about this for a second.
Okay,
because
here
I
we
was
got a
going
rant.
because I was going through some of my old pictures as a child,
Mm.
and I can't believe WWE got away with some of the shirts that they made, especially for kid sizes, because they had this one shirt that I remember, and it was a Judgment Day shirt for like the pay-per-view, and it had
Yep.
like a rope, like where like you would hang yourself. They had some really fucked up shirts around this time.
That was on the poster too, I think. That wasn't just a shirt. That was like the logo of that show. I think it was like what, 05, 04,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
No, it was like 2005 or like 2006. But
I thought
it
it would.
was
Well, I said
I
oh
can't
five,
believe
oh
they got
four.
away with some of that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Before
What about
cancel culture was a thing.
the image of Jeff Hardy in that tank or whatever? Like it looked like he was drowning. I think it was for oh god, what was his name of the show? I can't remember offhand. But it showed him in the tank with like, underwater.
I do remember that shirt.
Was it Elimination Chamber?
I think
I
it
can't remember.
was.
It might have been. I can't remember.
But they had a lot. I couldn't believe the stuff that they got away with. And for me, one thing I really enjoyed as well in 2006 with DX was when DX, friggin' put DX right on the headquarters on their building. I thought that that was really cool.
Bro, I went to New York last year because Vicky has family out there, so we usually go there. They live in Lower Manhattan. But to get there, you have to go past Greenwich, Connecticut, or no, Stamford. And I drove by Stanford, and I was looking both sides, bro. I did not see WWE headquarters in it. It's like they fucking tore it down. I didn't see WWE headquarters
They
anywhere.
did move it. I did hear that they did move it to another location, I believe, a
Yeah, but
couple years.
the building should still be there, and the new building, as far as I know, is not completed. So
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
I don't really know that much of it.
I don't know. I was hoping to see it though, but then Vince McMahon knew I was coming to town. And he was like, "Fuck this fat boy. He not gonna see my building. Fuck
That's
you."
the thing. That's the thing with like DX too. I thought it was really funny. Like after the whole Vince McMahon feud, pretty
Yeah,
much DX like shipped the entire Spirit Squad back to OVW, which I thought was really funny. They put him in like
that
a
was
crate
hilarious.
and it said OVW on it. That was
That
like
was
breaking the fourth
hilarious.
wall around that time.
Who was it? I think it was DX. They picked up Jonathan Coachman and put him in a trash can outside the arena. Remember that?
Yeah, and then also anytime like they did like inappropriate stuff, Shawn Michaels would always like get out of the scene, which like I know, because he did that because of his religion and
Yep.
stuff. but it still made it pretty entertaining and funny when Shawn would
Remember
just
when
leave because it always like was perfect timing.
remember when Shawn Michaels was off TV for like a couple weeks or whatever, and he was like feeling discouraged, and Triple H ended up showing up at a restaurant, and Shawn Michaels is like the head chef, and then I think around that same time, Shawn Michaels went up and down the hallway backstage and super kicking everybody in the face.
That was one of the funniest episodes. Like after, like before every commercial, Shawn Michaels super kicked somebody, and then like the commercial played, and then
And
he
then
would go
all the
back to the show.
papers would be everywhere.
He would super kick another person. Then we get on to the show. I thought that was great. Like I loved
Like
the stuff that they did with DX around the time. It was
DX
very
had
enjoyable.
Shawn and Triple H had great comedic timing. Like we were mentioning at the beginning of the show. Now we can finally get to it. The Little People's Court, man, when they had that whole thing going on with Hornswoggle.
Oh, that was great stuff. Like the Hornswoggle stuff I enjoyed, but for me,
The
after
Little
Triple
People's
H's,
Court, bro, would be underneath the ring. And Hornswoggle and all those little minions or whatever would kick them in the shin. Remember that?
I do that. Like for me, like the Hornswoggle stuff was really cool. But my opinion about DX after Triple H's injury at New Year's Revolution in 2007, besides the Hornswoggle stuff that they did a couple years later, I didn't enjoy. I did not enjoy the DX thing in 2009.
Oh, you didn't?
I enjoyed the entrance that they had at SummerSlam with like the tank. That was really cool, and they did put on some good matches with Legacy. But for me, like I really enjoyed DX from like 2006 to
Yeah.
2007. That was the best stuff, I thought.
Well, the best stuff for me was obviously, you had the New Age Outlaws and you had, X Pac and you had China, obviously.
Mhm.
So that was the good stuff to me. But I
Oh,
will
I
say,
still
like,
loved it. I still enjoyed it.
06, 06, 07, it was still very good stuff. I still remember the segments that they had with Crime Time.
I do.
Crime Time, DX got kicked out of the building. I think they were in the Manchester United Kingdom. DX got kicked out of the building, and they bought Crime Time was outside selling tickets or whatever, and they sold DX 2 tickets, and then they got front row.
Dude, Crime Time was so underrated around that time. Rest in peace
Shad,
to
yeah.
Shad.
Bro, I was friends with him on Facebook. I never talked to him, bro, but when I heard that shit happen, man, I was like, oh my god. I didn't know it was
Eh,
real. I went to his Facebook and I was like, oh, he hasn't been active in 24 hours, so it's fucking nuts, man.
he passed away as a hero though, saving his son in the ocean.
For real, man. Live your life like Shaq Gaspard, man. Real life
Life's too
superhero.
short.
This man's like a fucking the Black Superman up in this bitch.
Yeah. So, is there anything else with DX that you want to, talk about before closing off this week's episode?
I mean, there's a lot we could talk about. We could talk about, Austin blowing up the DX Express. They recently showed that clip on an episode of SmackDown a couple weeks back and revisited that, and it was just classic stuff, man. I remember when Stone Cold Steve Austin was going all around the arena just attacking each member of the DX because he wanted a title shot against Triple H, and Triple H just kept denying him. So he kept fucking just taking out all the members of DX and setting traps. It was almost like a real life Home Alone. Remember that Home Alone movie with Macaulay
I
Culkin
do.
setting up the fucking traps for the bad guys? It was almost like that, but in real life. It was fucking hilarious, man.
Something that I did really enjoy a lot
What's
was
up?
Raw. It was Raw 1000 when they had the
Mm.
DX reunion with all the
Yeah.
members for like the very first time. That for me probably had to be like my favorite moment with DX. Just seeing, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, the original two of DX. and
That
then
was the night.
having Billy Gunn, having Road Dogg and X-Pac back on WWE TV. I
Yeah,
thought that was such a cool moment for Raw 1000.
yeah, they were in New York, weren't they? And they did it from the Barclays Center, and they did it from the Manhattan
Nope, that
Center.
was Raw 25, I believe.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
talking
thinking
Raw
about.
1000, which was held in 2012.
I would have to go back and look, bro. That was a long
You
time ago.
definitely got it because that was such a cool
And I
moment.
think I think around that time I was sort of like I was at this period of time where I wasn't watching pro wrestling because I think it was I would watch the highlights, but I didn't have cable back then. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I didn't have any way to watch it really. So I didn't
Yeah.
watch wrestling around that time. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back and check out some of that stuff.
2012 was a very underrated year for WWE.
Oh, I know there was a lot. I think wasn't that the year the Wyatt family and fucking Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and
No,
Dean Ambrose debuted?
so 2013 was the Wyatt family. The Shield was the
Mm.
end of 2012.
I was close.
Because originally they were supposed to be like CM Punk's like security guards, but then
Yeah,
they went in a
that's what
different direction, which was really smart on their end.
that's what makes this whole CM Punk and John Moxley feud a little bit more interesting.
Oh yeah.
If you
And
know, you know, man.
as we're recording this is before the CM Punk and John Moxley match. So who do you think is gonna win the match?
Normally I would say CM Punk, just because he's people can say all they want about him, but the dude, I mean, he puts asses in seats. There are a lot of people that watch AEW to watch him.
Mhm.
Regardless of what somebody like Eric Bischoff has to say about it, saying that he's not, he doesn't, make any money for the company or anything like that. But with all the drama going on, I think you covered it in a hot takes episode.
I did.
I think maybe they go with Moxley and sort of give CM Punk a little bit of a break off TV to have things calm down. But I don't know. I've heard a lot of things like maybe CM Punk wins and maybe we get MJF back,
I
or
hope.
maybe
I want
or
MJF to come back.
or maybe there's not a clean finish tonight. Somebody gets involved or whatever. Something happens and they carry the match over to All Out, and then after that match, MJF comes back and they start setting it up for the next big show. I don't know, man. There's like, what are your thoughts on it?
I think CM Punk is going to retain the championship. And I did hear a lot of things about Eddie Kingston potentially going against CM Punk at All Out. And I could see
Yep.
that happening realistically.
Yep.
But
I mean,
I feel like MJF will not come back until All Out. If it happens tonight, I'll be happy as hell though, because as long as MJF gets the freaking AEW World Championship by the end of this year, I will be happy.
what
He
what
needs to be
city
the
are they
face of
in tonight?
AEW.
What city are they in tonight?
They are in Virginia again, or like New
Because I
York,
was
I think. Nah, not New
if
York.
they're
That's next week.
I mean, bro, if they're in New York, that's where MJF lives, Long
What
Island.
what if Hangman comes out tonight?
Like I said,
That
man,
could happen.
I think this is just all part of the story. I legitimately don't think there's going to be a clean finish tonight. I think it's going to get carried over to All Out, and
It's gotta.
and
It's
that's
a
what I
big
think.
match. It's a pay-per-view match.
Why would TK put this match on free television without something happening?
You are right, I feel like, on that end.
So
But we are speaking, into the future because by the time this is uploaded, you guys will already know what happened. We might be actually correct or we might be actually delusional. You never know. But let us know in the comment section below what you guys thought about this episode of the We Are Wrestling Talk Show. with DX. What were some of your favorite moments and stuff? If you enjoyed this week's episode, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, the best way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button now, turning on the post notifications. The links are down in the description below. You can go follow Danny and I on our social medias and other YouTube pages. All the
I got my
links are
channel
down
back,
below.
man.
That's right, he got his channel back, 3K.
Exactly, bro. Been posting a lot of content on there, man. Make sure you guys subscribe.
And to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.